Here is the biggest difference between running marketing teams at a $100,000 a month level versus running marketing teams at a $1 million a month level. In this video, I'm going to break down what that key difference is and how I've used it to grow several companies over the past several years. So if you're not familiar with me, my name's Damon. I'm a fractional CMO. And in this year alone, in 2025, I've built 5 different companies ran the marketing for 5 different companies from zero to $100,000 a month or more. And one of those companies is going to over $1 million a month. So I've been able to see kind of the differences in how you need to approach things at each different stage and what kind of changes you have to make from a leadership standpoint. So let's dive into what this is. So first and foremost, at $100,000 a month, chances are you as the founder are in this sort of heavy hustle, brute force type of stage. You are probably just throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks. You don't really know what works. You don't really have things dialed in. You're just kind of grinding your way through the business and somehow things are working. So at this stage, it's really important to be in a very risk-on type of approach. You have to be willing to try anything. You have to be willing to make changes super fast. You're kind of shooting from the hip. And at this stage, you have to just be open to anything because you don't really know what works. You don't have data to go off of. Now, this is in direct contrast to a large established business. If you're running a company at $1 million a month, chances are you have a pretty good pulse on what works. You know your lead indicators. You know your lag indicators. You have your team org chart built out. You have heads of each department. At $100,000 a month, like the founder is probably taking sales calls. They're probably running the marketing. They're probably dealing with the client fires. Whereas $1 million a month, you have heads of each department. You have a fractional CMO like me who's leading the marketing team. You have a head of sales. You have a head of CS who's dealing with the clients. And each of these roles has people under them. On the marketing side, I have a junior copywriter, junior media buyer. I have a creative director. I have the funnel builder. I have the videographer. I'm not necessarily doing the work. I'm guiding the work. And I'm kind of looking at things several weeks, several months in advance. Same with the sales side, same with the CS side. So at those earlier stages, at $100,000 a month, you have to just be willing to take tons and tons of risk. You have to be willing to try different things and really just scale every time something works. For example, on the marketing side, if you have a campaign, it's doing well, it's booking calls, it has a solid ROAS, solid CPA behind it, dupe it out, scale it, launch that new campaign, just double what you're doing effectively. On the sales side, you have to make up for that call volume by hiring additionally. If you hire a second closer and they perform, they get good results, you should already be looking to hire closer number 3 and number 4. And that way you can scale ad spend, you can scale the sales team, and you can scale revenue all at the same time. You have to be very, very aggressive about doing that. If there's one thing I've learned from being in tons of companies over the last 7 years or so, it's that I've never really seen a company succeed that's tried to scale slowly. Every company I've seen that's done really big numbers has scaled very, very aggressively. They're very risk on, and when things work, they just double down and they just ram their way forward and they deal with the fires along the way. They figure it the fuck out. That's what I've seen to do really well. Whereas at $1 million a month, it's kind of the opposite approach. You want to be very intentional. You want to be very calculated. You don't want to make rash moves. The main reason for this is because you have a big downside to protect. If you're generating $1 million a month, chances are you are profiting maybe somewhere in the range of like $200,000 to as much as like $400,000 a month. And if you basically just don't fuck up, if you just don't ruin things and train wreck the business, you as the owner could be looking at pocketing several $1 million a year and basically, being financially set for the rest of your life. Or depending on what your goals are, putting yourself on a good path towards having that big liquidity event exiting your business. So you really just have to not fuck it up. But it is really easy to fuck up a business. The biggest way that people do that is by just taking really rash moves. For example, at $100,000 a month, if you have a VSL, it's not uncommon to just swap the VSL. Just film a new one, throw it in there, see what happens. That's a horrible move at a high level of scale because that could basically just wreck your whole company because you're spending probably 10 times as much on ads as opposed to $1,000 a month or $1,000 a day in ads. You're probably spending $10,000 a day. And that's a lot more data going through your account. And if you have something that's working, you don't want to just go and scrap it. You want to be intentional and calculated. For example, when I make a new VSL, I'm going to look at what I had in the old VSL. I'm going to take it to a really high level copy chief. I'm going to have them review it, rip apart that VSL, target all its weaknesses, then remake the new one based off of that. Not like a fresh one from scratch. It's more of a new variation. Then I'm going to go and I'm going to launch a split test. I'm not just going to cut the old VSL. I'm going to set up like a 75-25 split, 75 going to the old one, then run some traffic to that new VSL, run it for 60 days, book a few hundred calls, then test what percentage of leads coming through the funnel are marketing qualified leads. I'm going to measure the close rate. I'm going to measure the ROAS, see if it improved. Then based off of that data, I am going to make a decision if I want to cut the older VSL and swap in for the new one. Now, I'm going to do this across the board. For example, on the application, if you're having major drop-off on certain questions on your Typeform app, I'm going to go in and look at the questions. How can I reword these? How can I make them better? Maybe I can remove the question entirely and it's not necessarily a value add to the app. Then I'll make another split test, set it up, run it for 60 days, see what happens. A pretty common one I've actually dealt with, this has been a big issue for me in the past, is when an ad is outdated. Let's say I have an ad, it has the wrong offer details. It has what we were selling 6 months ago. The ad has a lifetime ROAS of a 6x. We've run $50,000 in spend through it and it's made us whatever that accounts to, like $300,000. You're going to get a ton of pushback from the sales team, but there's just no way in hell I'm cutting that campaign. That would be a rash move. That's not a data-driven decision. So that's pretty much it for this video here. At a high level, biggest difference between running a marketing team at $100,000 a month versus $1 million a month is the level of intention you take to the business. You have to be much more calculated at a high level of scale. The early stages, you need a lot of aggression. You need a lot of brute force. You need to just kind of ram your way through things until they work and then just scale aggressively at all stages. Versus at $1 million a month, you want to be much more calculated and much more intentional to ensure the longevity of the business, maximize the profits, and set yourself up for a business that's going to pay you for years to come, get great results for your clients for years to come. So that's it for this video. Hopefully this is helpful. If it was, feel free to drop me a subscribe, drop a like on this video. I'm going to be dropping much more content like this in the future. So thanks a lot for watching.